Okay, today I want to show how to repair a shallow area of damage with a filler. Sometimes when the damage is so shallow, any filler we put on there is just going to get knocked right off and it won't really stick. So what you can do is you can actually drill a hole. I'm going to use a brad point bit here so it doesn't chew up the surrounding area. And I'm just going to drill a little hole here right in the center of the damaged area to give me an anchoring point for my filler to grab hold of, and then that will hold the rest of the filler there. So let's go get the filler. All right, so as you can see, I've got the stuff that I think I'm gonna need for the next step. I've got some hard fill here, got my torch to melt it, got some gray markers and some grainers and some scrapers and a cloth. So let's get to the filling here. I'm going to use the torch first and just melt the bottom of this stick here. This hard fill product is really handy. It acts a lot like a regular wax filler, but of course once it cools off it's considerably harder than a standard wax filler. You can see that the color that I'm using is considerably lighter than the color of the furniture that I'm working on. And it's always better to go lighter than darker because it's way easier to darken something up than it is to lighten it up. It looks more natural too. All right, we're almost done getting some layers of filler on here. Looks like my torch is actually starting to run a little low. And you don't have to necessarily use hard fill. You can use this technique with Bondo, plain stick, even the shellac stick. Of course, the only filler I think that we have that you probably would not use this technique with is the fill sticks, the plain wax fillers. Those, of course, will stick to anything. They're just not very hard, and usually on a corner you need something with some strength because it's going to get wear and tear, and you don't want the corner to just rub raw the first time the customer drags it across the floor or cleans it. That would not be considered a quality repair. So hard fill is designed to be scraped once it cools. You do not need to use a hot knife or chisel. You can just use your plastic scraper. And we start with a very light touch. And just get a little more and more aggressive with each swipe. I'm using the surface of the furniture itself as a guide to make this straight. Straight meaning a flat fill. Okay, and we'll do our final smoothing with a hard block. It could be wood, it could be rubber, it could be cork, it could be a very stiff, flat block. This is a rubber block with trace cloth, not cleaning cloth, wrapped around it. The difference between trace cloth and cleaning cloth is trace cloth has very low lint. We spend a little bit more money on the trace cloth, but we don't use it for general cleaning. We use the cleaning cloths for that, which is old white t-shirt material. But this trace cloth won't leave a bunch of little hairs embedded in your filler, which of course make it harder to color it and make it look smooth if there's a bunch of little hairs embedded in it. So as you can see, I've already been quite aggressive already on this fill. And if I hadn't drilled that hole first, You saw how shallow it was. It probably would have already popped off by now, but it's completely anchored on there. It's not going anywhere. So I can just hit it with the proper coloring. This particular color I'm using here is a Grey Wolf Pro Mark. I'll use a little bit of grainer here. This is a warm gray graining pen, just to add a little bit of that rosy hue that this has. And I'll switch over to raw umber and try to give it some of these cross grain striations that it has. We just want this to blend in and look natural. And that's it. This is a melamine, so I'm not even going to use a top coat on there, because that final coats with the graining marker is actually a very hard finish. So you don't even need to top coat brush tip markers. They've got polymers in them, and they'll last just like a finish. And that's how we do that. Thank you.